Hello, I'm Chris Metherell. I'm the Vice County Recorder for North Northumberland, the Botanical Society of Britain and Ireland, and the Natural History Society of Northumbria have asked me to make some films about local plants. And at this time we're going to look at plants that grow on road verges. Now, I'm just going to wait for these motorcycles to come past. So we're going to look at our road verge, and you might expect me to start with cow parsley, one of those white frilly plants that you probably know very well. We shall see some later on, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with a plant which looks very like it, but always flowers before it. This plant is called sweet Cecily, and it normally starts flowering at the beginning of May, even at the end of April, whereas cow parsley wouldn't come into flower probably until the second or third week in May. And it does look rather like cow parsley. It's a family called the umbellifers, and they're called umbellifers because if I pick a piece you can see that the flowers look like an umbrella, and there's a whole big group of these. Most of them in the UK are white, and they have tiny little flowers, stacks of little flowers on the top, and it does look rather like cow parsley. How do I know it isn't? Aha. Well, if I pick a leaf, rub it between my hands, it smells very strongly of aniseed. Rather nice, or nice if you like aniseed anyway. It's very strong, and it's our only umbellifer which really smells very strongly of that, which has white flowers. There are other umbellifers which do smell of aniseed, fennel for example, this one. And it's called sweet Cecily, and I've always wondered who the sweet Cecily was, who this is named after, but it turns out it's not named after a young lady at all. Its Latin name is Murris odorata, and Murris is the Latin name for this plant. And Cecily, well, it's the Greek name, S-E-S-E-L-I. So sweet Cecily in fact is just pinching the Greek name for the English vernacular name and the Murris for Latin. And there's me thinking it was some young lady it was named after. Well, let's move a little bit further up the road, because I know that just behind me are some white dead nettles. Here we are. And this is a family of plants that we haven't seen at all before. These are the dead nettles, and they have a very different flower structure from anything we've seen. The flowers in this one are white, and they form a ring round the stem. The stems are usually square, and if I look at the back of the flowers, I can see that there's a little green structure called a sepals normally, and it's five-pointed. It's got 5 points on it, and funnily enough, I don't think so to look at it, but flowers have 5 petals. They are all joined together to make up a tube, but they do in fact have 5 petals. And the flowers are very, very interesting shape, very characteristic of the dead nettle family, and you will know the dead nettle family because many of the plants, not this one, but many of the plants are quite aromatic. Rosemary, for example, you would put in roast lamb, or thyme that you might put in a stew. These are all members of this same family of plants. Many of them form herbs that we grow in our gardens and put in our cooking. But I don't recommend it with white dead nettle, it's probably not very nice. But behind me is another plant which has an interesting culinary background. This is what I call Jack by the hedge. It's called garlic mustard, technically, Aliaria petiolata, and it's a member of the cabbage family. We've seen some of these before. It's got small white flowers, 4 petals on a cross, so it's a crucifer, and this one, as its English name implies, tastes not very strongly, but tastes a bit of mustard, and I think it was used as a mild mustard flavoured plant in the past, perhaps in salads or in stews. It's another early flowerer. It'll be normally in flower by the first or second week in May, perhaps even earlier than that. And what we have discovered, or people who do the clever scientific work on these plants have discovered that plants which taste or smell similar often are closely related, and that happens with these brassicas, with these cruciferous plants. Ones that are closely related often have a slightly astringent mustard flavour, and so I think any apothecary back in the 16th century could have probably told you that, but modern science has proved was correct. Now we're going to wander across the road now, if I can manage it without getting run over by a motorcycle, and we'll look at some plants which I can see out of the corner of my eye on the other side of the road. Okay, well I promised you that we would see some cow parsley later on, and here we are, and here it is. Looks very like sweet Cecily, doesn't it? You can tell, of course, it's an umbellifer because it has umbels, these things that look a bit like umbrellas. And the flowers are very small, but they're worth looking at because they exhibit a feature which you get quite a lot on umbellifers. And if I look closely at them, I can see that it has, each tiny flower has 5 petals, but they're not all the same size. And there's one large one, 2 medium ones, and 2 very small ones. Now, that's very typical of cow parsley. It's called Anthriscus sylvestris in Latin. But you also get that feature on other umbellifers. So it's worth having a look. You see a plant, for example, called hogweed. A great big, tall, chunky plant. That also has the flowers with the petals of different sizes. And sometimes you can find that the petals on the outside of the little clump will be bigger than the petals in the centre of flowers which are in the centre. It's a very common plant, often called Queen Anne's lace, which is rather a nice name because of its rather lacy leaves, finely divided. Where my mother used to come from, it's just my cameraman having a sneeze, don't worry about it. Where my mother used to live in Warwickshire, they called it Naughty Man's Porridge, or Naughty Man's Oats. I've no idea why, but I think it's a fantastic name. But I don't think she ever called it that. And growing next to it is a plant from another quite large group of plants we've not seen before, and this one is called Crossword. I'm just going to go over here and have a look. And here is Crossword. Once again, it has absolutely tiny flowers, but they're not small white flowers. These are small yellow flowers, as you can see. They're really small. They're only maybe 2.5, perhaps 3 millimetres across. Loads and loads of them at this time of year. And you can see why it's called Crossword, because, again, if I pick a piece, the leaves are in crosses. There are 4 in a circle round the stem. And the flowers are, again, in these circles, 4 very tiny yellow petals. And you'll know a plant which is quite closely related to this, I'm sure, called Sticky Willy, which every child, I think, has thrown at the back of his friends and stick on. They have tiny little white flowers. And for the botanists amongst you, there's an interesting fact about this plant, and indeed about Sticky Willy. If I look at it downwards, I can see that it's got 4 leaves. Well, I have to tell you, they're not. It has 2 leaves. The leaves in this family, Cruciata, which is Cruciata vipes, and in the family which Sticky Willy is in, which is Gallium aperine, the leaves are opposite. And these other things that look like leaves are not leaves at all, they're just there to fool you. They are in fact called stipules, and anatomically they're different from leaves. And sometimes you get, with Cruciata you get 4 of them, 2 leaves and 2 stipules, and in Sticky Willy very often you get 4. Others you might get 6, so you'll have 2 leaves and 4 stipules. It's just there to fox you and make you think you've got it cracked, and then you realise you haven't. But anyway, Cruciata vipes is a really bright, nice yellow spring flower that brightens up the road verges. Well, it's coming towards the end of May, and so I thought we have to have a look at the plant which really fits into May, and that is of course hawthorn, otherwise known as May. So I can see some just past the shoulder of the camera. We're going to walk over there and have a look. Well, this is hawthorn, otherwise known as May, and It's of course an absolutely common hedgerow plant. Every hedgerow, I should think, in Northumberland has some hawthorn in it. Some, like this one, are almost entirely hawthorn. Of course they're planted, but hawthorn is a perfectly good native shrub. And in these days, hedges don't tend to be laid properly, but probably on the other side of this one is a barbed wire fence to stop the beasts getting out. But the interesting thing about May is, here we are, I think we're on the 25th of May today, and it's only just really starting to flower. This bush has got a lot on, but I can look down the hedge and I can see that there are no other bushes that have got any blossom on at all. So it's certainly not sort of things that one would make a May garland out of on the 1st of May, because this wouldn't be flowering, you'd have to use other things. But this particular one is the common hawthorn. Its name in Latin is Crataegus monogyna, and monogyna means it has one female stigma. And if you look closely, we can see that there is indeed only one stigma. But if you're really lucky, or you really search about, you can find plants which have two stigmas, and usually those are Midland hawthorn. Don't get it much in Northumberland, as you can imagine from the name, but there are bushes of it. It does pop up in hedgerows, it gets planted by somebody, and usually it flowers in Northumberland a little bit earlier than the common hawthorn, and I had high hopes that this would turn out to be Midland hawthorn when we walked up to it, but it wasn't. So this is Crataegus monogyna. Midland hawthorn is Crataegus levigata, but Midland hawthorn will do. And it's quite fun at this time of year just to go out and see if you can find some. The leaves are a little bit different, they're not quite so divided, and it has two stigmas instead of one. But of course you do need your trusty hand lens to do that. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed our little trot across road verges, and we managed to do it without getting run over by any cars and motorcycles. Do take care if you do it yourself. Do watch out for the traffic, and I hope you enjoy the road verges this spring.